The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the busy airport. Planes roared in the distance, and travelers hurried to their gates. Among them was Kian Rivers, a young black pilot with a dream as vast as the sky itself. Kian had worked tirelessly to earn his wings, overcoming countless obstacles to become one of the few black pilots in the industry. His uniform was crisp, his posture confident, but beneath the surface, he carried the weight of proving himself in a world that often doubted him. Kian was scheduled to fly a commercial flight from New York to Los Angeles. It was a routine assignment, but for him, every flight was a chance to show the world that he belonged in the cockpit. As he walked through the terminal, he noticed the stares, some curious, some skeptical. He was used to it, but today something felt different. Today he would face a challenge that would test not just his skills, but his very identity. He approached the airline staff desk to check in for his flight. Behind the counter stood a man named Trent, whose name tag gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Trent looked up, his eyes narrowing as he took in Kian's uniform. "Can I help you?" Trent asked, his tone clipped. "Yes, I'm Kian Rivers, the pilot for Flight 427 to Los Angeles," Kian replied, keeping his voice steady. Trent glanced at his computer screen, then back at Kian. "Wait outside," he said dismissively, pointing toward the door. Kian blinked, confused. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Wait outside." "I'll call you when I'm ready," Trent repeated, his voice cold. Kian's heart sank. He had faced discrimination before, but this was different. This was blatant, unapologetic. He took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I'm the pilot for this flight. I need to prepare for departure." Trent smirked. "We'll see about that. Wait outside." Feeling a mix of anger and humiliation, Kian stepped outside. The cool air hit his face, but it did little to soothe the fire burning inside him. He leaned against the wall, his mind racing. How could this happen? He had worked so hard, sacrificed so much, only to be treated like this? Minutes passed, and Kian's frustration grew. He pulled out his phone and called his best friend Malik, who was also a pilot. "Malik, you won't believe what just happened," Kian said, his voice trembling. "What's wrong?" Malik asked, concern evident in his tone. Kian explained the situation, his words spilling out in a rush. Malik listened quietly, then said, "Kian, this isn't right. You can't let them treat you like this. You've earned your place. Fight back." Kian nodded, even though Malik couldn't see him. "You're right. I can't let this slide." He hung up and marched back inside, determination fueling his steps. Trent was still at the desk, chatting with a colleague. Kian approached him, his voice firm. "I need to speak with your supervisor. Now." Trent rolled his eyes. "Look, buddy, I don't have time for this." "You'll make time," Kian shot back, his tone leaving no room for argument. Reluctantly, Trent called his supervisor, a woman named Diane Harper. Diane arrived a few minutes later, her expression stern. "What's the problem here?" she asked. Kian explained the situation, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Diane listened, her face unreadable. When he finished, she sighed. "I'm sorry you feel this way, but Trent was just following protocol." "Protocol?" Kian repeated, disbelief coloring his words. "Since when is it protocol to tell a pilot to wait outside?" Diane hesitated, then said, "Look, we'll look into this. But for now, you need to step aside. We have a flight to prepare." Kian felt a surge of anger, but he forced himself to stay calm. "No," he said firmly. "I'm not stepping aside. I'm the pilot for this flight, and I'm going to do my job." Diane exchanged a glance with Trent, then nodded. "Fine. But any issues, and it's on you." Kian didn't respond. He turned and headed toward the cockpit, his mind focused on the task ahead. As he went through the pre-flight checks, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, judged. But he pushed those thoughts aside. He had a job to do. The flight went smoothly, the passengers none the wiser about the drama that had unfolded earlier. But for Kian, the experience left a bitter taste. He knew he couldn't let it go. He had to take a stand, not just for himself, but for others who might face the same treatment. After landing in Los Angeles, Kian filed a formal complaint with the airline. He detailed the incident, providing names and times. But days turned into weeks, and he heard nothing back. It was as if his complaint had vanished into thin air. Frustrated but determined, Kian decided to take matters into his own hands. He reached out to a journalist named Elena Martinez, who had a reputation for exposing injustice. Elena listened to Kian's story, her eyes widening with each word. "This is huge," she said. "If what you're saying is true, We need to bring this to light. Together, they began investigating the airline. What they uncovered was shocking, a pattern of discrimination, not just against pilots of color, but against passengers as well. The evidence was overwhelming, and Elena published an exposé that sent shockwaves through the industry. The public outcry was immediate. Social media erupted with hashtags like #JusticeForKian and #EndDiscrimination. Passengers boycotted the airline, and shareholders demanded accountability. Within weeks, the company's CEO resigned, and Trent and Diane were fired. Kian's story became a symbol of resilience and courage. He received messages from people all over the world, thanking him for standing up and inspiring them to do the same. But for Kian, the real victory was knowing that he had made a difference. One evening, as he sat on his porch, watching the stars, Malik called. "You did it, man," Malik said, his voice filled with pride. "You changed the game." Kian smiled, a sense of peace settling over him. "We did it," he replied. "But this is just the beginning. There's still so much work to do." And he was right. Kian's fight sparked a movement, one that would continue to push for equality and justice in the skies and beyond. His story reminded the world that no matter how high the odds, standing up for what's right is always worth it. The moral of the story? Never let anyone dim your light. No matter how hard the journey, your voice matters, your dreams matter, and your courage can change the world. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. If you'd like to show some extra love, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks.